Good morning and welcome to Flashpoint. I'm Justin Warmoth. Tuesday marked 1 year since tragedy struck the Orlando Police Department. Lieutenant Debra Clayton, on the force for nearly 20 years, was shot and killed in the line of duty. Certainly a difficult time for her family, friends, and the Central Florida community, as well as the Orlando Police Department. And joining us today on Flashpoint to help us remember Lieutenant Clayton, we have Orlando Police Chief John Mina. Chief Mina, thank you so much for being here. It was a dark day 1 year ago on Tuesday. Took the life of a great officer. Not only that, but also took the life of a responding deputy with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. First off, what do you remember about that day? What were you doing when you first got the call?
I was on my way to speak at a conference, and I got that phone call that no chief wants to hear. That the news that Debra had been shot, and I immediately rushed to the hospital. And one of the things that sticks out to me the most is just the officers at the hospital, her squad mates, other responding officers, and then deputies for Norm. Everyone was just, we were all just broken. It was an extremely hard day.
When you think of it being 1 year ago, is that hard to believe that it was just last year?
It really is hard to believe, but I would say, not a day goes by that, our department, we don't think of her. Many of the things we do, we dedicate to her because she was so involved with the community. It's been a tough year, but we got through it. We're grieving, and we'll continue to grieve for her loss.
We've heard so many stories, and speaking of her community service, about Lieutenant Clayton, how much she loved Orlando, specifically the children of Orlando, volunteering with them. What do you remember most about her, both as an officer and a community ambassador?
Well, first, as an officer, she was always a good police officer. It went so much beyond community engagement, and even the last moments of her life were spent protecting this community. But it was extremely important to her to engage with our youth, to have those informal conversations, use that infectious smile that she had, to build trust between police and the residents, and she knew how important that was.
On Tuesday was the 1 year mark, and there were several events planned. Take me through those events and what stood out to you the most.
It was a beautiful day. You're somber, but we wanted to do something to honor both Norm Lewis and Debra Clayton. Mm-hmm. So it started out at UCF, and there was a procession that came through the city and passed by the Orlando Police Department, and we all stood out there. There must have been 300 or 400 of us, and it was a great sight to see, especially for Norm's mom. Mm-hmm. And then we ended the day with a legacy walk in honor of Debra Clayton, because part of the many community engagement activities that she did was organizing these marches and walks and March Against Violence, and she did very well at setting those up. So we knew that this is what she would have wanted, and we met out at Hankins Park, and there were 200 people there, lots and lots of police officers, and it was great because we all walked together in memory to honor Debra.
As a police chief, I feel like it's tough not to think about the worst when your officers are out there at all times of the night, all times of the day, and playing that in your head of what could happen. Is that something that maybe you thought about before the actual incident, is how you would respond and how you would lead the department afterwards?
It is definitely something that I thought about. I knew that morning I needed to show strength and leadership and lead these men and women through, for many of them, the toughest day of their career. And then, it doesn't stop from there. We're still grieving, and to lead them through, especially those first few months. And of course, with that, we had the manhunt for Markeith Lloyd, right. So there's still work to be done. And it was a tough time for all of us, but we got through it together. I have a great team, a great bunch of men and women.
And speaking of Markeith Lloyd, I don't want to touch too much about that, but it did last 9 days, the manhunt. I'm curious, what made that so difficult to bring him in, and what do you remember about that night as well?
Well, I remember that we wanted to bring some sort of closure to the family, but also we wanted the community to feel safe, and we knew that our community members were scared. They were frightened. And we wanted to catch him as quickly as possible and bring him to justice. And from that night, when I was notified that we were closing in, I just remember, I'd heard that probably every day before that. Hey, we got him, we know where he is, and to no avail. But that was the night that we closed in, we got him, and my first phone call was to Seth Clayton. And I'll never forget his words and his relief when we told him that we put Debra's handcuffs on Markeith.
A nice moment.
Yeah. Justice.
All right, let's take a short break. When we come back, Chief Mina will talk about whether overall crime in 2017 was up or down, and what we can expect for 2018 as we get going with that. We hope you stay with us.